it wasn't total nonsense. Hello lovely humans, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Mary, and on my journey to make progress, I'm going to be holding myself accountable to reading more books. Each month I will be putting out a video where I talk about and review the books I have read in that month, so be sure to always check back at the start of every new month. With that, let's get into what I read in June 2018. The first book I read in June was The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. The Secret is all about the law of attraction. So whatever you think in your head is what's going to be attracted to you in your life. Now, reading it, I was really skeptical, and I did finish the book thinking that a lot of it was ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
For instance, I don't think if I just imagine myself with lots of money, all of a sudden I'm going to get rich. It even went so far as to say, like, if you're experiencing homophobia, it's because you were thinking negative thoughts about that, and that's just... But going around some of the ridiculousness, I did gain some insights after reading this book. While I don't think the law of attraction works the way they say it does, I do think positive thinking can increase your quality of life, and I gained some practical ways for myself to shift my mindset in a more positive way. One of the main ways I started using The Secret and what I've learned is starting a gratitude journal. So every day I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for from the day, and some days I even add in a goal for the future. And I think of the goal as just like something I'm going to be grateful for, or that I'm sort of preemptively grateful for, like believing that I'm going to achieve that goal and it will happen. This has really helped bring more positivity into my world, more happiness into my world. So I think taking things like that from The Secret are useful for everyone. I wouldn't necessarily recommend the book, but I would recommend maybe researching like the law of attraction or positive thinking to see how it might improve your life in some way. The second book I read this month was All the Light We Cannot See by Doerr. This book was gifted to me many years ago by one of my closest friends, and it has just sat on my bookshelf, sadly staring me in the face for all that time. But finally, I have read it, and I wish I had read it earlier. It is amazing. All the Light We Cannot See follows the stories of 2 characters in and around the time of World War II, and their lives eventually will intertwine. The first character is an orphaned German boy who has a knack for fixing radios. The second is a French girl who has lost her eyesight but still has an avid appetite for reading. Her father works at a museum in Paris, and the whole story follows how the war impacts their lives, where they unfold. The whole text is beautifully written and always engaging. They're really short chapters that switch points of view, and even when there's not like action happening, it's still really gripping and you want to keep reading more. There was never a dull moment. So I would definitely recommend this one. Know that it's dark. It does take place during World War II, so there are some horrific things that happen, but I think I would recommend to anyone who's looking for a good book that's going to engage them, check out All the Light You Cannot See. The next book I read was by YouTuber Akana. It's So Much I Want to Tell You, Letters to My Little Sister. I picked up this book because I had a free book on Audible, and I'm a big fan of Akana's YouTube channel. I recommend you check it out. I didn't know what to expect going into this book, but it ended up being sort of the story of her life along with advice for other young people Anna covers topics from like her career, relationships, and mental health. If you are not familiar with her, her sister had committed suicide at the age of 13, and so she's sort of the driving factor of the book, and it's just things she wished she got to share with her before she had passed. I found the book really pertinent to my life right now in that I'm trying out some new creative endeavors and hobbies, and Anna talks a lot about that and making your dreams come true, going out there trying new things. I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're a fan of her, but even if you're not, if you're just a young person who might feel like stuck or lost, she is someone who has been through that and has sort of made it through to the other side for the most part. And it's reassuring. She has some concrete advice in there. So I would check it out, support her. She's amazing. Check out all of the other things she does as well. And finally, the last book I read this month was The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. This one I really struggled to finish on time for this video, but I managed to do it. This is a historical fiction book, which I don't normally read, but I ended up enjoying. It follows the events and creation of the World Fair that took place in Chicago. So I found it really interesting just reading about what Chicago was like during this time period. I definitely would not have wanted to live there, but it's fascinating. There's the building and creation of so many brands and companies that are so well known today that were just getting their start at this time. Within this story is also the story of many, 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 many murders committed by Henry Holmes. I'm not that into like murder TV and like documentaries, but reading this I kept going because I really wanted to know like how many people this guy murdered and how he did it and if he got caught, and I found that part to be really engaging, along with like the fair and how much of like a grand feat it was for it all to come together. What I found most interesting like after reading the book was just thinking about the stark contrast between like this grand, beautiful fair that's full of invention and excitement versus all of the other things happening in Chicago at the time. Like people are disappearing, there's murder, the streets are dirty, and there's factories. And there's just such a bleakness, and this fair is just a light in that darkness. It's the White City in like the realm of dirtiness and despair. And I felt like as a reader in today's world, I could really relate to that. With the state of our news cycle being like horrible story after horrible story, and it feels like there's not a lot of like hope, I think we all as humans find our hope in some kind of like escape or frivolity that we engage in. And maybe it's not something huge like the World Fair that brings people from all over, but in our own daily lives, whether that's like a TV show or a book or a hobby, like we all find a way to disconnect from all of the awful things around us. And I think just reading this historical novel shows me like all humans need respite from that. We need to stay informed, we need to stay active, we need to be present in those moments, and we need to take care of ourselves in the process. So I found those parallels to be really interesting, and I think with most historical novels or even like futuristic science fiction novels, you can always find something that links to today's world. So if you have interest in the history of Chicago, if you like a good like murder story, or you're just interested in history at all, I would definitely recommend The Devil in the White City. You may have noticed that I only had one physical book to show you, and that's because I've been listening to most of my books on Audible. For this next month, I'm planning to raid my bookshelf behind me and find some books that have been sitting there waiting for me for a while. My goal is to try and read like 6 books in July. We will see how it goes. But if you have a recommendation, something I gotta read right away, please leave that in the comments down below. With that, I will see you next month for another book review and next week for another cooking video. My goal right now is to put out 1 video every week, and we'll see where this creative journey takes me. As always, please like, subscribe, follow me on things, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye. Give me money. Give me unlimited vegan marshmallows. Give me sleep.